Mannheim is a workers, security guards working in a Guangzhou hospital, and he, as a security guard, he have a labor dispute, and he worked together with his colleague, and he led what they call rooftop protest against the company, but then he was arrested and then jailed for 9 months. So, but even after his jail, I think that is very important, and that's where the hope is. After the baptism of the fight, of the struggle, he continued his work. Not this time, not as a security guard, but he worked for a labor NGO in China. And then the labor NGO in Guangzhou organized a strike called the Leader Shoe Factory Strike. He is involved in that. And the strike go on for several times. First strike, negotiation, but then broken by the management. Then the workers elect another representative, another group of representatives to go on strike the second time. And then the police come in to, in a meeting when the workers are having a meeting to disperse the workers, and then arrest Mannheim, the organizer, into detention. But then the workers demand for his release, and then he was released. So the second time, the workers, even though the police had dispersed the factory meeting, they still keep on fighting. And then they organize a third strike. And this time, after the first strike, they are able to negotiate an agreement with the company on the compensation that should be paid to them when the company moving the factory outside of the area called Ponyu. So Mannheim keep on fighting, and then after that fight, in the year 2015, then the Guangzhou government, the provincial government, decided that they have to clamp down on all labor NGO, the activists. So there's a round of detention, arrest. Then 25 of them was arrested, and then finally, some of them released, and 6 of them remained in jail, in detention. And Mannheim was one of them. And Mannheim, because he refused to confess, so he was jailed the longest sentence for 19 months. And the CTU that year, 2016, through the ITUC, we complained to the ILO Freedom Association Committee, and we get a response from them, a ruling saying that, the labor NGO should be able to continue the work to serve the workers. But of course, it doesn't help Mannheim from being released. But finally, he was sentenced to 19 months anyway. But after he was released, after 19 months of jailing, he come out and say that I will want to continue my work in the labor NGO. And the police force him to go back to his hometown, which he refused. But since he refused, what happened afterward is, Mannheim, he was detained at his home. So you can go out, but 4 police will follow you. Now every day. So that's where the money being spent by the Chinese Communist Party, the government. They use all this police to monitor all the activists, no matter you're human rights lawyer, labor activist, all of them. They try to, monitor and suppress your freedom and your activity, including recently, of course, the famous wife of the Nobel Peace Prize winner Liu Xiaobo. Liu Xia, she was still being, after the death of her husband, she was still being not able to contact her friends and outside. So we do not know where she is, and she is still under detention. That is sort of regime that we are trying to, change. And for us, I think, the hope is even with all this repression in China, the workers are still going on strike. Even after Mannheim was being arrested, detained, and there's so many labor NGOs that are being, suppressed, the workers still go on strike. And this is where the hope is that, the workers in China now, I think in everywhere in the world, is that they have nothing to lose but their chain. And that is exactly what they have now doing. Since nothing to lose, so why not? We fight. And I think that is where the hope is. And for us in Hong Kong, we have the freedom to organize. The lesson we learned from our Chinese brother and sister is that, for us, we have the freedom. For them, they don't have freedom. If they are willing to fight, how can we lose heart? When we can do more in Hong Kong, we go on strike and we will not be arrested, at least for the time being, okay? I'm not sure about the future, but for the time being. But then how, we always tell our members, we must not lose heart. We may be dismissed by the employer, but at least we are free. But look at our brother and sister in China, they are not free, but they still keep on fighting. And so I think for us, we hope that we is now in a competition with time, whether the freedom of Hong Kong can be preserved, or we are become Chinanized, so-called, or the black hole come over to us and we become part of black hole, or we are able to survive and then we can change China before China changes us. That, I think, is what we are trying to do in Hong Kong, and I think we need all the support from all of you, international solidarity on what we are doing in Hong Kong. And I believe that the Chinese brother and sister, they will continue their fight, but I think, and we will try to, tell the world, that about their fight, and we will try to continue to support their fight. And I think this is the role of the trade union also in Hong Kong. We are not just about Hong Kong, but we also have a vision that we have to change China. And to sum up, final words, I would like to give explanation of the words here. In Chinese they say 滴水穿石, which means 水 means water, and 石 means the rock. So a drop of water will go through the rock. And that is exactly what we are, I think the Chinese brothers and sisters are trying to do. They use every drop of water, every strike, and then the system, the black hole, the system that seems never to be able to change, will change one day. And I believe that this is also happening everywhere in the world. The world seems to be very dark now, with the right-wing populism that Paul had mentioned, the Qatar situation that Ambit had mentioned, and the Chinese workers situation that I mentioned and that I talked about. But the whole world seems to be dark. But then, I think, if every one of us are willing to, fight and, have that drop of water, then we can change the world. So thank you for the support, and thank you, and look forward to seeing you all. Thank you.